Now we're going to get back to LinkedIn, but I want to talk about the second category, which is work for a contractor. So that's me. And there are other contractors, so state, county, and local, but I'm going to talk about federal opportunities, especially since we're in the Washington, D.C. area. So I use the source sam.gov, and that has most of the solicitations that are active. So right now, there are about 90,000 solicitations that are active on sam.gov. 21,400 are set-asides. So that means they're looking for small businesses, they're looking for disabled vets, they're looking for women-owned small businesses, they're looking for 8A companies, Native American companies, et cetera. And then 8,800 approximately are located, of those positions are located in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. So this is a great source for opportunities. And the way I would suggest using it, you go into sam.gov, and there are, you can check various filters. So this is an example of a filter that I put in for Maryland, DC, Virginia. So I just said, what kind of opportunities are available? This one came up, the contract. So you go in and you say, what contracts were awarded? So you want to know who just got a bunch of money that are maybe looking for people to fill positions. Because typically what happens with federal contracts, and I'm just going to speak from my own experience as a federal contractor, you will submit a bid for a position and you may not have all of the positions filled. So you'll get the award and then you go out and you look to fill the positions. So in this case, the award date was February 10th, so fairly recent. It's Northrop Grumman, huge company. The contract was for $33 million. Huge, right? It's located in Dulles. So then I went to LinkedIn and I went Northrop Grumman and I hit jobs, and they currently have 2,975 job postings for Northrop Grumman. So hopefully you can see the connection. So you go to sam.gov, you go to filter, you say award details. You might give some additional filters, and I'll show you some examples of that in a minute, but you might see some additional filters. You look to see who's recently gotten an award, how much money, and you can put some keywords in there so that it's around the work that you're looking for. Then you go to LinkedIn, and I also use LinkedIn as a market research tool. Who do I know that works for Northrop Grumman? And it'll pull it up. There's one person I know that works for Northrop Grumman, or at least is a contact, a connection rather, on LinkedIn. I would if I were looking for something and I saw in this group of 2,900 jobs listing at Northrop Grumman, I'd call the person or I'd send them an email and ask them, some questions about the work environment, about these certain positions. It's sort of like an informational interview. So that's how you kind of use the two. Now, I'm going to give you another example. And this is my personal example of how I found someone. And then we'll talk about small businesses on the SAMS.gov. So my point here is not to overlook small businesses. Most people, when they're looking for positions, they'll look for companies that they have some awareness of. And those are going to be large companies, fairly large companies. A lot of competition because everybody is looking for, looking to work for a large company. but don't overlook small businesses. So I had, as I mentioned, gotten a contract, and I still needed to hire another process improvement consultant. So I was on my way to visit with the client. They were in Herndon, Virginia. I lived in DC. I got a lift. So, Herndon is 30 miles from DC. So it's going to be a fairly long commute. So as we're driving, the Lyft driver gets a phone call and he says, "Ma'am, I hope you don't mind. I need to take this call." And of course, since he was driving, he put it on speaker. Apparently, he was submitting his resume to go into a bid package, which was due at 3:00, and it was like about 2:00. And they just had some questions. And so he's talking to this person that's completing the application. And he mentions a name of a person that, he says Karen, and I won't mention the last name, and I was just like, oh, I know a person, that last name is not common. So of course my ears perked up. And then he's talking and he's validating, yes, process improvement. Yeah, why don't you say, I forget what he said, but some other key word that basically I was hiring from. So then when he gets off the phone, I said, well, I couldn't help but overhear you. And I think I know the person that you're speaking of. So he confirmed that was the person I knew. And then I said, well, I heard you talk about process improvement consulting. Is that the work that you do? He says, yes. So 30 minutes, we're having a conversation on my way to Herndon. And I end up interviewing the Lyft driver on our way to Herndon, and finds out that he basically has the skill set that I'm interested in. So he's been working for me since I think 2018. And, and the positions are not, they're really good salary positions. So my point here is don't overlook small businesses. So when you go back to SAM, when you go into SAM, you would go award notice. So these are the filters, award notice. Now there is a filter for NAS code or NASCII code. And in this case, I also do training. So I put the NAS code in for training. So there's a lookup. You can look for codes for training. You can look for, there's a whole list of them. Accounting and whatever your specialty is, you would put the NAS code there. So you would pull up people who have received awards that's in your field of expertise, right? You can put up state, where they're located. Now with COVID, clearly, and the aftermath, it has taught us that we can work from anywhere. So finding location may not be as important, but that would just kind of filter it down, and that might also improve your opportunity to get a position. So I pulled up, based on this filter, most of them were fairly old. So you'll see contract award date was September 30th, 2019. Now I would still, however, what I would do with something like this is I would pull up their information. So this is their website. I would look to see what they do. But the other thing that you need to understand, so they received a contract for $2 million in 2019. I would write a letter or send, about us. I would contact them. I would go back to LinkedIn to see if there's anyone in that organization that's linked, that's in HR, or that is in a specific field that's similar to the work that you're looking to do. I would make a contact with them and basically introduce yourself with your credentials, let them know that you're looking for this type of position, and have a very succinct kind of letter of introduction that tells them very quickly in 2 paragraphs the value that you could add to that organization. Now, the reason why I would do something like that is you never know when a small business has an opportunity. It may not always be on FedBiz Ops, because as an example, my company received a contract, new contract in 2020 with extension or option years. So I'm not going to show back up on FedBiz Ops because my contract has 4 years of extension. So you would not know that I have a new extension coming up in 2021, 2022, 2023. This company very well could have extension years. I don't know. Because see, base and all options value. So I'm not sure of how many years the options are, but that's why I would write companies that have the keywords that I'm interested in and that have received a contract, that has been fairly recent.